Here.
I'm sorry, city manager.
Wow.
I apologize, city manager Jackie Gorman.
She got a demotion, I don't know.
City attorney Fred Coberlin.
Here again.
Deputy city manager C.J. Samosky. City planner Laura Jones. Here. Police chief Dennis Stroh.
Here.
Airport manager Ben Stiegel.
Here.
And city clerk Latricia Wright here.
Thank you. All right, if you would, please stand with us and join us in the opening prayer and pledge with Mayor Robbins.
God, we come to you this Christmas season thanking you for sending your Son so that we may have eternal life. Help us to simplify our activities and traditions so that we can focus our celebration on your birth. In a world where worry, not peace prevails, stir up that good news again. This Christmas, make it real in our hearts. Lord, never have we needed your joy, peace, and healing hand more than we do now. We pray that every day, and especially during this season, that you provide and protect our first responders and our military men and women. Be with this council tonight, lead, guide, and direct them in the decisions they make on behalf of this city. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 1 on the agenda is additions, deletion, changes, and approval of the agenda. Mrs. Wright, did you have an update on the consent agenda?
Yes, sir. On the consent agenda, I would like to remove resolution 2020-80, please.
You want some explanation for that?
I do. Like, why are we removing it?
Yeah.
Is it, we're going to discuss it later?
We approved the next general election, or I'm sorry, regular election for the city council to be on March 2nd, the first Tuesday in March. Ms. Wright read the charter and thought that it stated that it says in even years we will hold it on the first Tuesday in March. And she interpreted that to read in odd years we might would hold it on the second Tuesday in March. But Mr. Cloverline has clarified that, I believe, and we had already approved to do it on the first Tuesday in March. So we're going to stick with that. There's no need for a new resolution.
Terrific. Thank you for that explanation. Okay, thank you. I move the consent agenda as revised. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as revised. Any further discussion? Mr. Ross, anything on that?
No, sir.
All right, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. We'll move on to item 2. Administration of oaths to council-elect Michael Cox. This will be Judge Browning.
I'm doing great. Got to put myself in the head with that. How are you doing this evening? You want me to go fast or slow? When I was sworn in as a judge, it took me like about 5 times to do it. He just flew, and I didn't practice. Look, congratulations. If you raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm. I do solemnly swear or affirm. I will support, protect, and defend. The Constitution. And government. Of the United States. And of the state of Florida. That I am duly qualified. To hold office. Under the Constitution. Of the state of Florida. And that I will. Well and faithfully. Perform the duties of. City council member. For the city of Williston. Upon which. I am now about to enter. So help me God. Congratulations. I'm going to
Mr. Cox, you may take your seat.
There Aaron, can you turn this down some? It's too loud.
Welcome.
Which one? Too loud.
All right, welcome to our newest council member, Mr. Cox. We'll move right into the rest of the agenda. Item 3 is public participation. This is our first of 2 chances for the public to speak. If you would like to address the council on any item that's not on the agenda anywhere else, now would be your time to do so. You'll have 5 minutes to speak. If you'd like to, please raise your hand and I'll recognize you and you come up to the podium and state your name and city of residence, and we'll give you 5 minutes. Would anyone like to speak? No one online here? Wayne's checking.
He got a whole pair of pants on tonight.
He does, it's cold out there.
All right, thank you.
Aaron doesn't.
No public participation at this time. We'll move on to item 4, the consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of council minutes from November 17, 2020, Resolution 2020-79, a resolution of the City of Williston authorizing the purchase of Itron FCS software and 2 FC300 Super Raptor radios for the new meter reading system. Any discussion on the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, consent agenda is passed. Item 5, old business. Item A is staff and board and counselor updates. We'll start with City Manager Jackie Gorman.
Thank you. Just a couple things. We did get our preliminary plat for the old ghost town. It's now called Country Lane Estates, and it consists of 100 lots. So that's 2 developments now that's coming in. We have the 47 units around Winn-Dixie, that's the pocket, a neighborhood for Laurel Ridge, and this one for Country Lane Estates. So it's in review right now. We're hoping this will be done in a few, you'll be able to see this probably, and then within the next 2 meetings, they come to you for approval. So we have a lot of things to work out, but I just wanted to remind you that it's in. I've provided you with the draft agreement of Waste Pro. We're still working on that. Have a couple more things that need to be included that we've sent to our city attorney to be included in this agreement. It should be ready hopefully by your next meeting. I know I said we probably have it ready for tonight, but there's a lot going on with that agreement. We have to make sure that it's properly managed once it goes into effect and everybody is in their seat and ready to go with the new program and everything that we have happening. So that's still in progress. We're going to be going out to RFQ for collections. A little bit of question over whether we could maintain the last company that we had, but we found out it's just been expired too long. So going to be doing RFQ and collections. Meanwhile, our billing office has done a good job. We've already gone through and found a couple things and been able to collect about $6,200 in one business that the old nursing home.
Good Samaritan.
Yeah, Good Samaritan. So that was a really good thing. So we're pretty much auditing everything we do, and it's been positive. So we have a lot coming to you for that. Other than that, I think that's all we have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for City Manager? Okay, CJ? Any update?
Yeah, in addition to that, with Waste Pro, we've also been working on the Track Easy system. It's a software system that they supply. Any of the actions that the city or the citizens are requesting are entered into that. Up until this point, it hadn't been utilized to its fullest. It shows actions that are requested by the city. However, none of them are cleared out at any point. So we've been working with Trip at Waste Pro and the Track Easy system. there is an area where they can close these out, and it just hadn't been done until recently. So that gave us a better idea. When we pulled it up to begin with, any of the actions the city had entered into this, there were like 200 plus in the past 6 months, and nothing had shown closed out. So we weren't really aware if they did what we asked them to or not. So anyway, we're working through that. The electric transmission contract came through today. It is signed, memorialized. A copy was supplied to City Clerk Wright for the records. So as of 12/31 midnight, we will be a member of FMPA, purchasing through them instead of Duke Energy.
Can we
We
get,
also,
can we get a copy of that, Sir Jay?
yes.
All right. Okay, sir.
You say, can you?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll forward that to you
I would
later on.
appreciate it.
The 6-inch water pump that, we ordered here 2 months ago has arrived. They held it for us in anticipation of us buying it. If not, we would have been out another 6 to 8 months. And the electric conduits, on 41, that we had the directional drill done, they are installed into the, undeveloped portion of the airport, so we have those conduits available.
All right.
And that's all I have at this time.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Wait a minute. Okay. I would just like to compliment CJ on the contract for the electric and everything, because it came at a time we were under the gun, or the council was under the gun to get this done here, and he worked very diligently on that, and basically got it done for the benefit of the city and the city residents. So I'd just like to compliment CJ for that.
Thank you.
All right.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes, sir.
Are the rates gonna be the same as Duke Energy's rates? Are they lower, higher? Pardon me?
Better.
Better rates? How much better? Is better?
Terry, if you got that many questions, you have to go to the podium, I'm sorry. For the record, we can all hear you.
So you're gonna give me all the answers? That's it?
I didn't say that. You might not like my answer when I get you up there.
We just want to hear your questions.
Spotlight on Lady County government, is this first?
On top.
Sure. There.
Jerry Witt, Bronson, Spotlight on Lady County government. My question is, with the new electric contract, are you getting lower rates, and how much lower are they?
We're definitely getting a lower rate than we were. The total savings has not really been released yet, but we know for a fact we'll be 20% less. We are actually going to be almost 100% less than what the increase is going to be through Duke Energy. We are getting a better rate than we currently have, and again, if we had stayed with Duke, the increase to that would have been 200%. So it is a substantial savings. Some of this is going to be a direct pass-through. They should see it immediately upon, this contract being entered, so they won't actually see a reduction in their utility bills until probably February's bill.
That answered my other question, why you switched over to FRPM, but it's for better rates, is why you switched.
That is correct.
They're not really a power company, are they?
They do generate power. They have natural gas generators, but they also deal in surplus energy. So they purchase basically nationwide. They purchase from Duke, any surplus, Florida Power and Light, amongst the others. There are several entities in which they purchase from.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else on staff?
One second.
Get the council.
Yes, sir. Drummond Bank has informed me that we have a safe deposit box there that has not been opened in over 5 years, and they would like to know what we would like to do with that box. And unfortunately, I have not been able to find a key.
Wasn't this an issue a few months back?
That was Capital City.
So what's what?
So,
Do we have any idea what's in it?
And you can't find a key. Surprise.
They don't have a key either. I asked that question to them.
You get 1,000 keys, is that one?
We'll have to look through them, please.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I wasn't even where we had a safe deposit box there, but, no, the bank's not gonna have your key, they're gonna have their side key, and you have to have yours, and if you don't have it, and you'd like to have your box drilled, you can pay to have it drilled and get your contents out of it if we think there's anything in it, I don't know. So, sounds like something needs to be addressed,
Mhm.
we weren't aware of that, so, okay. All right, is there anything else?
No, sir.
Anyone else on staff? Chief? Okay, all right. Time for any counselor updates. Mr. Ross, we'll start with you. Anything? No?
Nothing new.
Okay. Ms. Jones?
Not at the moment. I had a question for CJ, but it went away just as quick as it came. I can't remember what it was.
Okay. Anything else?
If it comes back, I'll let you know.
Okay.
No, sir.
Mr. Cox? Okay. All right, we'll move on to item B. Second reading, ordinance number 688, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, authorizing the submission of amendments to the city charter, amending the compensation of the council members and mayor to the citizens through a referendum and providing for an effective date. So this is the second reading of this ordinance that'll be on the ballot if approved in March, correct?
I move ordinance 688 on second reading, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, authorizing the submission of amendments to the city charter, amending the compensation of council members and the mayor to the citizens through the referendum, and providing for an effective date.
Second.
Okay, sorry, I was looking for it, I finally found it. We have a motion and a
So did
second to approve ordinance, second reading of ordinance number 688. Any discussion amongst council?
One thing that I would like to do is I would like to make the public aware of what the other small cities in our area, how they compare to what the compensation currently is for the city. I know 100% increase sounds like a lot of money, but I would like them to know what Bronson and Chiefland and Crystal River and Archer and cities of that nature. I also know that some of them only have sewer and water. We're a full-service city. I'd like to kind of do a little bit of comparison on that as well.
I believe there was a study.
I think the mayor has it. I would like for the public to see it.
Okay, so when you say you'd like the public to see it, you mean now? You wanna read that
No.
now?
No, I would like for, possibly, let's give it to the newspapers.
Okay,
See if they'll do an article on it. We may have to write an editorial to get it there, I don't know. I don't know if the mayor has any recall of it. I know that it was ridiculous.
It's on that little flat box in my office, if I can find it.
yeah, it was definitely discussed, those numbers were presented at the time that we,
Mr. Ross is so good, he's handed me two things tonight. Just for comparison, I just wanna say Bronson's mayor gets $800, ours gets $250 at the moment. Their council gets $500, we get $200. They have water and sewer. What do we have? That's the kind of thing that the public doesn't realize that what they're getting, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to do it. I think that all of us sitting here would probably do it for nothing. We obviously don't do it for the money, because we're spending hours and hours. For example, when you look at 107 applications for city manager, and that's been, I know telling how many hours we've spent doing that. It's not really about the money, it's about trying to get qualified people to want to be in the position, so that we can have people who succeed us when we need to be here. That's all I have to say.
okay. Any other discussion on the motion at hand? Okay, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of approving second reading of ordinance number 688, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Second reading passes. Okay. Item 6, new business. Item A, discussion with possible action, improvements at Cornelius Williams Park. Ms. Jackie Appling, you here? We discussed this at the or you brought this to our attention at the last meeting, and we have to have it on the agenda for further discussion and possible action. Okay?
Good evening again. My name's Jacqueline Appling, and as mentioned earlier, I stood before the council at the last meeting and asked for permission to possibly start a committee that would work with some areas to support the Cornelius Williams Park, and to work with the council as well, addressing areas such as safety, parking, accessibility to the park, that's the entry and exit, utilization of the park, maintenance and improvements in other areas. Again, just a review, I spoke with a couple people and have been working with several ladies at the City Hall, Ms. Patricia Wright, Ms. Laura Jones, and Ms. Jackie Gorman, for guidance in the areas that I felt like I needed to have that guidance. And Mr. Albert Fuller as an advisory on ways that we can present this information to you all. We met with Laura and came up with the name of the committee, as well as committee members, tentative. So that group, I'm hoping, will grow with different people that have different expertise in those areas. My mission and I see for the group is to grow with what we have and utilize the people that already have those things going and not reinvent the wheel. So the name of the group that we discussed would be acronym FOCWP, which is Friends of Cornelius Williams Park. And I thought that was just a heartwarming type of acronym, and hoping friends throughout the community will play a part in that. And I have a list of the committee members, which I will submit to Ms. Patricia Wright, and she will make sure that everyone sees that list. And again, it's tentative, and it will continue to grow. One of the things that we talked about in the small committee meeting that we had was doing an event at Cornelius Williams Park. It hasn't been an event done out there in a while. And so one thing we came up with, and we talked as a committee, was having a movie night. Because I think they have one at, well, I know they have one at the park here, John Henry. And our Benjamin Patricia's the one here at the gazebo here. So we were thinking of having a movie night, and having like a third additional movie theater you could go to see a movie. And we came up with a flyer, and it's called the Polar Express Invitation. And again, I will submit this flyer to Ms. Patricia that kind of gives an idea of what the movie night might look like, the activities that might be presented to the family, the time, the date. And we're looking at the date of December 18th. And we're boarding the train at 6 o'clock. And we're hoping to have activities planned ahead of time, so that the families can come out and just kind of enjoy the park and see what's there. Visitors, community members that are in the community already. Just come out and just kind of get a view of the park as a start. And like I said, this is like the first activity we're hoping to get things started with this committee. So again, I have the flyer that I will present to her, and she's guiding me through it. She's done an excellent job. I attended the activities after the parade, and it was awesome. It was just such a great time, and I saw so many families having a great time. So I'm hoping that the board will give us permission to try something, at least start something, and see where we move from here with the park. And that way we're able to touch bases on those areas that we discussed, safety, parking, accessibility, utilization, maintenance and improvements, and other areas. But we have to start with something in order to know how these things are going to play and what we need to change and address. And again, I have Mr. Cornelius Williams' daughter here, like I said, she's excited about just seeing the park being utilized. And I think a lot of people in the community, I've heard people just talking and saying they would love to see this happen, and love to see that. I know we can't do everything at the park, but hopefully we will start with something, with one activity that might get the ball rolling. When I've done, like I said, I kind of presented the flyer. It will be like the first annual movie night. We're hoping the success of this event will hopefully allow the committee to address and improve areas that are needed. any suggestions, any improvement, any ways to make it continue to grow. And we also want to be able to work with other people that are already doing things with the park and not try to jump in and do everything, because I know I can't. That's why I'm constantly reaching out to Mr. Fuller and anyone that can help, because it's a team effort is what we're hoping. So I'm going to ask Mr. Fuller if he will give an insight on how the committee will work closer with Mr. CJ, because he came with a brilliant way and idea. So I'll let him just give an input on what we talked about at the meeting.
I hope that you all will look at this opportunity as really an opportunity to do a couple of things. One is that there has been a disconnect between basically the community surrounding Cornelius Williams Park and the city in terms of communication. We hear things, but I'm sure the city has never heard many of those things. There's a feeling of neglect of that specific park. And what we want to do is we can provide information for the community because we live in that community. And likewise, we can provide information for the city, particularly CJ, because you only have so many hours of the day to work. And so we see this as a way of actually enhancing what you do by at least taking part of that vision of that park and the community off your plate so that we can provide a synopsis for you of the way the community is looking, or the things that are coming out of the community, and we can actually provide communication to people in the community. So I think this is only a win-win situation if it's approved. And so we look at that. We also look at the fact that we're adding hands and eyes and ears for the city, making sure that when we talk about volunteers, we're looking for a good number of volunteers, a minimum of 15, such that the things like if the committee can be empowered and if volunteers can be empowered, then those volunteers can do things like watch the restrooms that are many times locked when activities are going on out there, so that if the committee and the community can be empowered, then those volunteers can take 2 days a month. If they're 15 volunteers, it would only require 2 days a month for a volunteer to make sure that the park, watch for vandalism, watch for things that may hurt the park or be not in the city's best interest. So we're looking at this as a way of just adding hands to the city and adding ears and eyes to the city, so that we who live inside of the community that surrounds that park can actually communicate better. We can see what's going on in the park. We go to the same churches. We basically go to the same community activities, and so it provides us an opportunity to present a synopsis of how the city, what the community is saying, how they're responding to the things that are being done. But basically, it just enhances your vision as well as allow us to pay more attention to a park that some feel that has been neglected in many ways.
Okay, thank you. If y'all will stay up there for a moment, because some of the council may have questions. We may have questions for staff as well that we need to ask. So we'll start. Does anybody have anything they want to ask of the presenters or staff?
I'll just make a comment. This is a tough one.
Yeah.
It's tough. Please don't think I'm not in favor of it. It's a tough one because, as you know, it's in the county. It's a city park in the county. County rules apply as well as city management. We've had so many problems with the restrooms out there. CJ could tell you a whole lot more than me. The minute we fix them, somebody breaks the sink off at the wall. I don't even think, the restrooms are locked because they're not functional. To my knowledge, unless you fixed it and locked it again. and you would have to answer that question for me. And we fix them over and over and over. And I know a lot of what you're saying could be helpful, but I don't think it's not happening in the daytime. And we don't think it's people from Williston and Levy County that are doing that either, from some of what we've seen.
Am I allowed to respond to that?
If you'll let CJ just tell the state of the restrooms and the park itself, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, the restrooms at this point are in a state of disrepair.
Yeah.
At least once a week, the sinks were ripped off the walls, the commodes were busted. We found piles of leaf litter, paper and all of that were actually set on fire multiple times in the middle of the floor with food cans, tin cans, beanie weenies, things like that, where they're actually cooking in the restrooms. The last time we started locking them up at night and only opening them during the day, the police chief and his staff had gone out there and they were unlocking the doors in the morning and then closing them in the evenings. We brought it back to the council. Even in that period of time, we had to put the sink back on the wall twice in 1 week and then had to replace it once, and then the last time we just quit doing it, brought it to the council, and they suggested that we just lock up the bathrooms. I'm all for events out there in the park. That's what it was built for, designed for. As Councilwoman Jones did allude to, though, it is a park within the county. So for a special event out there at night, with the park hours being dusk till dawn, or daylight till dark, as the sign states, the council has the right in the other parks to give special exception for an event, John Henry and all of that. They also have a right to do it out there, but it also requires another step, and that's to get permission from the county. You would have to get a special events request from them as well. Their intent on that, I would have no idea. I know we had the movie in the park at John Henry. For years they were showing it up there on the back of the racquetball court, and then it was moved down to the pavilion once the enhancements were done down there.
I also don't know how the lighting is out there for an evening event. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Out there are street lights. There aren't supposed to be, because it's supposed to be closed at dark.
There are a couple street lights out there, but there is no lighting in the park itself.
Right, and probably not at the egress and ingress part, as you're saying, too. That's probably also an issue. I don't know how I feel about a committee that's not functioning within the city, are there members of the city staff or police department or anybody on your committee? I mean, I don't know who your committee is. I haven't seen it.
Well, we're talking about a volunteer group called Friends of Cornelius Williams Park. And it's not unlike many other Friends groups that look after the interests of a park or anything else that is in the public interest. And so
we don't have any of those currently. I guess I'll just.
No, they don't have any, but I think it would be in the city's interest to at least consider something like that, a group of volunteers that's looking to do a number of things, like Ms. Appling was saying that in the past she's attempted to do things like get plants for the park and various other things. We're looking at things such as looking at the shrubbery, the things out there. We're looking for 15 volunteers that would be out there, and many of the things that CJ mentioned relative to them destroying restrooms or whatever. The one thing that we would expect out of that volunteer is that they would post themselves up at the restroom, because that's been one of the major hang-ups. And so it would be something where there would be a set of eyes where the chief, nor CJ, nor anyone else from the city would probably be willing to spend a whole day out there just doing that. It's an extra set of eyes to begin to make sure that that's a park, and we feel it's a very valuable park. And if there's someone out there that if nothing else, if there is an incident, can notify authorities, can deter the crime or whatever there is going on out there, and also make whoever's holding an event out there responsible for the people that they bring out there. Just by letting them know that it is a privilege to hold an event out there. Whether it's a soccer game or whatever, to hold an event out there is actually a privilege. And they can violate that privilege, and that privilege can be reported to the city, and, I mean, that incident can be reported to the city, and the city may say, and whoever's in charge of letting them come to the park or use the park can say, in the past, when you applied for a permit to use the park for this purpose, you violated the things that you promised you would not do. And so, it's a method of having someone that is accountable and responsible. And particularly, we discussed having that person be posted up out there such that they can contact whoever is responsible for the activity and make sure they know that children are not to be left unattended to run around the park. And if there are children that are unattended and there is an activity out there, then we need to advise them that there should be a parent with them. And if it isn't, then that's when we can contact authorities. But it's a way of actually helping to make sure that that park is is safer and is better taken care of than what it is presently, because the city does not have the resources to put someone out there all the time, and we believe the community does have that ability.
Okay.
I'm still wanting to hear the names of you said you had names of the committee.
Of the committee, not of the volunteers yet, because we're seeking 15 volunteers.
In addition to the committee?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, well,
Okay.
Ms. Wright may have all that information, but we're not privileged to it. So it's hard to make a decision without that type of information.
Okay. We've got someone that'd like to speak.
Yes.
Could you come to the podium, please, and give us your name?
Marvin Johnson, and I'm one of the business owners here. And you was asking about on the committee. Well, I'm on the committee, and I'm one of the business owners here. I've been in the business 20 years, right here in Williston, 28 East Noble. So I supported this. I've listened to Mr. Fuller, and I'm here to say we lock up the bathroom. Just, we don't want to be bothered. Is what I'm getting from this. When do we start? If you don't give us a chance to actually form a committee, and for me to be a business owner here, and I'm going to take time out of my schedule to actually help with this process, when do we say, okay, rather than just lock it up? I don't want to be bothered. I hear it's in the county, I hear it's in the city. Well, I can coordinate between Chief Stroh, very good friend of mine, and with the sheriff. So we coordinated, and we'll have both departments coming out there to help us along with it. But we need to help, so unless the city wants to say, okay, let's see what it looks like, rather than lock it up. I'm just saying what I'm listening to, and I'm trying to be a part of an improvement, because Mr. Fuller is right. That park has been neglected. Matter of fact, Mr. Cornelius Williams was the first person I cut when I moved my business here. My very first client. And so to have that neglected like it has been for the past few years, she's been fighting 11 years, 10 years, however long it's been. And I've been here 20 years. It's time to do something. I don't care if you only want to donate $1. I'll match you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. I'm going to make some comments.
Now, let me just say again, I said at the very beginning, don't think I'm against it. I'm just letting you know my concern. So, your turn.
And I'll make my comments, which are, I have a lot of questions, probably more questions as we discuss it come up in my mind to make sure that we do this right. But Mr. Johnson, in response to what you just said, we were backed into a corner when we decided to lock the bathrooms, because every day they were getting destroyed, and that taxpayers' money just being thrown away. To me, this discussion is a possible way to change that and move in a different direction. So I like the idea, I like to get citizens involved, and I like the chance to make this park what it could be. I think personally, and I've got a lot of questions to ask of the attorney and staff and everybody else, but we just need to make sure we do it the right way. We don't want another citizens group to come in tomorrow and say, well, we're gonna run that park, so we wanna make sure that if we put a committee together or a board, I'm not sure who they'll report to, if it's to the council or P&Z or somebody else. I'm not sure if we need someone on staff to actually be the chair of that board or committee to give it some authority to, that you would, rather than the committee trying to report back to the council every week or every meeting or whatever, maybe there's someone on staff. So I've got a lot of questions that I haven't answered yet as to how this might work. But I think it's a great idea. I think we just need to figure out how we go there.
Thank you for saying that a whole lot better than I did, because I agree.
And I just want to add, because when the project was started back in 2011, I started the interest in that property out there. It was a space I passed as beautiful. And I started with volunteers. And I worked with several council members, and I can look through, and there's some that are still here, and there's some that are not. And some that were new when I first started. And those are the go-to people for me. What are the rules? What are the regulations? What do we need to do? And that's what I'm hoping with the volunteers that Mr. Fuller is speaking of, the small group that started back then like we did, able to work with all the people that are in the positions that can tell you the rules and regulations, because that's me. I'm for rules and regulations and doing it the right way, but also for allowing people to feel like they're being treated fair when they're having an event out there. And I've watched when they were not, and I've watched when they were, and I say to those people, go to the meetings. Let's get the rules, let's get the regulations, because it needs to be done right, no matter who's having something there. And so, like I said, through volunteers and just coming to offices and calling people on the phone and saying, what do you do? And Adam Hall and all those people that were there, that were answering those questions for me. And Miss Jackie and Latricia and Miss Laura, those are people that, and anyone, if I can come to you and say, what do I need to do? Because I need to know the rules and regulations so that they're not being broken. But also so that people are feeling like, you give me these are the rules and regulations, I'm going to follow those. But where do I go to get this information? If I get that person that says, I'll go pick it up for you, I'll get the application, you submit it to this person, I don't mind. That's what I think we're saying, liaisons between, and how to get to getting it started again, and getting the ball rolling, and moving in a positive direction. Because there's been so much negativity, it's been so, and we just need to, I'm asking, like Mr. Marvin was saying, to start fresh. 2021 will be here, start a fresh year. 2020 has been tough on everyone with everything.
Sure.
And that's what I'm just hoping that there'll be another park in the community of Williston, Florida, that visitors and everyone can come by and families can go enjoy. And it's a park that you enjoy being in.
Great. I'm gonna ask Mrs. Wright and Ms. Gorman if you have any comments on this, since you're familiar with it, you've dealt with it. You may have some answers before you ask them.
I would suggest that Laura would speak on that part.
Okay.
Because she's been more involved with it than I have.
Okay.
I did some research on, I understand the vandalism issues. It's a small city, we can't afford it. We also don't want a health safety problem out there. I did talk to a couple different organizations. I talked to the DOT, I talked to Florida Parks, and it's not uncommon. It's super common. In fact, they all laughed at me when I said that it was a big issue for us. They have plans in place to deal with vandalism. As far as bathrooms, they have sinks that you can't tear off the walls. They remove mirrors. I'm not sure if we've gone to that point yet, but probably. They have, one of the things they explained to me was that doors were ripped off. If you've been to any park recently, they don't have doors anymore. They have that L. That's why. It's not because they don't want to rip doors. It's because people rip them off. So our problems aren't unique. I think if we reach out to people who've been through it, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, we'll be able to come up with a plan that'll work, you know, for vandalism. Is it gonna stop at 100%? No, and I'm not gonna make that commitment, but I think if we have people out there in events, and the community can take a little bit more pride in it, I think we can overcome a lot of that. So if you have any other questions about,
My question would be more towards, how do we structure something where we have a board or a committee?
Yeah, I
Who do
mean-
they answer to, who heads it up? To
We've,
give them some authority to do something.
I've been involved in many Friends of. Often they do have a liaison, either at the city or the county, but they're usually a not-for-profit, they're on their own. They don't really report to the city or the county, but they do ask permission to do things like they've done here. So if you want to have a good plan on how to organize it, it's been done before, again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
If I may, there's jurisdictional issues here, we know that. It's in our comp plan as a recognized park for the city of Williston. So I think at this point, I would contact the county to find out just exactly what they're thinking about that park, so that I understand how they feel as far as jurisdiction is concerned. If in fact it's true that it is, that they, even though it's in the county, they look at it as a city park. I think that park is just, at that point, it's management, it's understanding, all the issues and managing it as far as all the problems out there. And I'm hearing this group willing to do that, and I think it would almost be like an extension of us to be able to communicate with them to make sure that the park stays whole, go for grants for improvements, whatever's needed. So the first thing I think is the jurisdictional issues. The other thing is the patrolling, the hours of the park, and how that's going to go down. I know that's been a problem in the past. We need to make sure that we've answered all the questions to get everybody comfortable so that you can feel good about setting hours. If you want it open in the evening, you know, we do have noise ordinances that would affect folks if you have very late. I know there's been talk about late night concerts, et cetera. We gotta put some rules to that. We don't want to cause problems with this, but we do want enjoyment in the park, and we want it to be healthy and safe for everyone. So let me start by reaching out with the county and finding out just what it is they have in their mind about this park, and report back if I can. That way that's put aside. We don't have that out there anymore. And then we'll talk about the issues from the past that we might have from an enforcement, if there is any, and see if we can't solve those. Once all that's done and you're comfortable, we can get your resolution with the hours, because we did find the park hours by resolution. Cornelius was not in it. We want to confirm our special events, what's allowed where, and how we're going to permit those. So it's a process, and we'll just knock one thing off at a time. But we have to start with county. That's my thoughts. Once we get that out of the way, I think we can feel better going forward.
Okay. Council comments? Scott, anything?
I'm all for it. I mean, you know, as long as it goes through all the channels, you know, that we cross the T's, the I's, I think it's a great thing to do.
Okay.
I think it's a wonderful idea. We need something like that out there, but I think, as Ms. Corman said, we need to start with the county and get that straightened out and go from there.
Okay. Mayor?
Ms. Evelyn, we can have Officer Mike Rose as a liaison with the city police. If this comes to fruition and it moves forward, I think Officer Rose would be a good person to help you guys and be a liaison with the city police department.
Okay. Ms. Jones, anything else?
I'm just trying to figure out how we can do this December 18th event you want to have. Because that's something that's got a time limit on it. I don't know what we can do.
If I can speak on that, as Jackie said, she was talking about doing a movie in the park.
Right.
Since it gets dark early, we can do a movie like at 5:30. And we'll still be out of their, per the, regulations.
We're gonna have to fix the restrooms if they're gonna have a movie night at the park.
Correct.
Can't have kids in the park in the restrooms.
What are the recommended hours?
It closes at dusk.
It does.
At dusk. All park, all the other parks. This one probably got left out, 'cause it was the last one we added.
What would be the duration of time of this event?
Well, to start, it's definitely to, since there's not a lot of light out there, let's see with the firelight that you in it, and see what. The ones that I've attended there, the events were always, they were done and out of there before dark. Because that was the sign, and most people were having to follow that sign.
And you wanted to start earlier to do other things, if you just had the movie in time to be over before it got too dark.
Mrs. Wright, when you've done movie in the parks at other parks, you headed that up on behalf of the city, it was a
Yes,
city-sponsored event, it's in our park, so there was really no one to approve that because it was us.
Correct.
Well, we had a special event permit, which will still happen, because that puts everybody on notice if there's something happening somewhere. You know, police, emergency, people, public works, make sure they don't have anything that they need out there, like barricades or anything.
But in addition to that, we'll need that special exception approved through the county because of location.
I'll check that first thing.
Okay.
Let me find out, just make sure there's no problem there, so that we understand what they expect. And then it will go back to Latricia on the special event permit, and we'll work from there, if that's acceptable.
Well,
You're talking about doing it during the, early though, not at night.
it would start at 5:30 or 6, and it's gonna go till 7 or 8 o'clock.
I mean, they could start at 2 o'clock if they wanted to, and as long as they're out of there with the movie at dark.
Well, the movie's
Well,
gonna be,
if you're showing the movie, it cannot be shown until.
Yes, it gets pretty dark.
all right, I'm going back to my question, which was, we've done this in other parks. If we, the city, can put on an event to have a movie at this park and go after the hours based on our own special exception. To me, this sounds like a kickoff event to gather support, to get volunteers. The city needs to sponsor it, at least
Yes.
the way that we did the other ones, and work with this group. And hold, I mean, this is very soon, this is 10 days away, so it's very quick. But, I guess what I'm saying is I would be in support of the city having a movie in the park night and have it at Cornelius Williams Park. And with the help of the proposed committee, working with staff to make that happen, if we can get the special event permit and the county approval if needed. And I would be in favor of it and get the ball rolling sooner rather than later to get this moving in a good direction.
So we have to get the county involved immediately.
They're gonna figure that out and start working on that.
I'll take care of that tomorrow.
Okay.
How long would the movie be? 2 hours, is it
About 2
two
hours.
2.5 hours? That's a long one though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Polar
probably not
Express.
much for a yeah.
So if it starts at 5:30, say 7:30, 8 o'clock, so it would go, the movie would go, say, 5:30 to 8 o'clock. That would be
I think this.
That's a good guess.
somewhere in there, somewhat of that.
There was a lot of comments initially about not reinventing the wheel here. This has been done by us at multiple parks. Just do whatever we've done there is what I'm getting at. Bathrooms, I don't know how you're gonna have them ready in 10 days, so. But,
You get a porta potty.
There you go.
okay. You guys have not formed any kind of nonprofit organization yet or anything, filed any paperwork?
Not as yet, but that was one of the intents also to begin to raise money that may offset many of the things that the park does need.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I could see this being a fundraising arm for the park to not only create events, but improve it, so
And
that's
Ms.
part of
Adams
your
has
goal.
done some of that fundraising primarily in goods, but not in dollars. And she's had a lot of things donated, even time donated, to do some things there. And it's just, now, we need to legally be able to raise money for that park.
Yeah.
We do have a Friends of the Williston Police Department, but they are, a nonprofit, and that's their purpose too.
Okay. Any other comments on the committee, the movie night, the things that are coming up quickly? Okay. I mean, I don't think at this point we have anything to necessarily approve as far as I can see, other than it seems like the general consent is to move forward with staff researching the option for this?
Due to recent events, they will need to file a special events packet and have it approved.
Yeah.
Before they have the event. Just
Well,
for administrative reasons.
and I agree, but that's the question that I'm basically posing, is at this point, they're not a formed group yet. Is this not a city event that Latricia's gonna put on versus an outside group? Still have the process, I understand, there's still all the things that she's doing.
Regardless if Jackie wants to put on as an individual, you know, there's a process for a special event or city. Either way, it don't matter, but we just need that.
Yeah, even the city fills out the application.
Yeah.
That's what I just said, the city needs to handle it, in my opinion. We just turned down the application to have a special event there after hours, because we haven't clarified hours, we haven't done those things. Rather than have an outside group put on an event right now until we clarify those things, I think the city needs to put on the event, the same way we've done before at other parks. And
There
just
you
have
go.
it at Cornelius Williams.
There you go, yeah.
That's my opinion, does everybody agree?
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
And thus will give us time to move forward with this next plan. Any other comments? Staff has direction? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item B, discussion with possible action, lease transfer and assignment of inbuilt enterprises at the airport, Harold Bilch. Mr. Stiegler, are you gonna speak on this? Okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ms. Bilt has asked me to speak on behalf of her for this particular agenda item, just because I've been a little closer to the situation. All of you are familiar with the well-built doors building that's out on the airport. It's been vacant for almost a year now.
About a year and a half.
So we have a little movement on that front, thankfully, and we've got a contract that is pending based on the approval of the city council. So we've got a potential buyer for this building, and they're wanting to come in, set up an operation, and basically everything's kind of waiting on us right now for the approval. There was a small snag in paperwork between myself and Mr. Krogerline. Apparently my email wasn't working properly. We got that fixed, and we've got everything checked off, as it were, and we should be receiving the paperwork very shortly for the actual assignment of lease and acceptance of lease from the seller to the new leasee. Full disclosure, it will cost the city a little bit of money for the operation that's going in there. We will have to relocate the fence, the perimeter fence that is just on the forward side of the Wellville building to the aft side of the Wellville building. It's gonna cost, just roughshod, it's gonna cost about $17,000 to relocate the fence from Passero. And what the industry is moving in, it would take about 10 months for us to pay that off. So it would be paid off in less than a year, based on the fuel sales of the business moving in. And that's at a rough estimate of fuel consumption provided by the customer that's going in. I would love to field any questions you may have.
Okay, council have questions? Ms. Jones?
Where are you going to move the fence? Is it going to hinder Williston Horsemen's Association at all?
No, ma'am.
How far down is it gonna go?
To the end of the Wellville building.
Okay.
And then it's gonna go straight from the edge of the Wellville building, straight back to where the perimeter fence currently hits, and that will marry up to the Horsemen's Park fencing. It won't infringe upon their fencing at all. It actually cuts straight across. There, you'll probably have 4 or 5 feet between the Horsemen's Park fencing and
They'll
the
go
perimeter
across the
fence.
old taxiway, right? They just move
Yes,
it,
ma'am.
move it from the taxiway where it is now farther across a different, the same taxiway, but farther to the south.
Yes, ma'am.
And it doesn't infringe on any of their gates, the Horseman's Park gates.
No, ma'am.
Okay, that was the biggest question I had.
Is this the high fence? When you say
Yes.
perimeter fence, it's the... what is
Yes, sir.
it?
So it's a 6-foot fence with 3 strands of barbed wire, and a moving gate. So a keypadded gate. So they're gonna have to relocate electricity, relocate the fence, patch the concrete moving to, or going towards the runway, and that's why the price tag.
Now, that explains a little more.
Sorry about that.
17,000, I can move
Just
the
to move the
fence,
fence,
but...
yeah.
And I presume that's so that airplanes will have
Ability
taxiway
to taxi.
ability
Yes, ma'am.
to that building.
We don't have the contract. that
We do
you
not have the contract.
To approve.
No, no, sir. This was put on for, basically to make it public and, get the council's, you know, consent to move forward with the deal pending the paperwork that Mr. Kroger, the finalized paperwork Mr. Krogerline will be sending to us in the future would be signed. That makes sense. Mr. Krogerline, would you like to?
No, but I will.
Okay.
We were not, Vince and I, Mr. Stigl and I were not able to meet last week. We met, yesterday, Monday. And
Give that man a microphone.
the resolution went out last week.
Correct.
But the agreement, you verified the,
Thank you.
you verified the history of the transactions between Built Enterprises and the city. And so the assignment is ready and it's gone out, back to the city today. We did not discuss a perimeter fence. I don't know that that should hold up the assignment unless it's going to be a deal breaker with the, assignor Built and the assignee. But I do know that, having heard that it's a perimeter fence, the FAA has stringent regulations and would need to approve the relocation of a perimeter security fence. So I don't know where you're at with that, but again, if that's going to have consequence on the assignment, that needs to be addressed between the two parties, before it comes back to the council.
Yes, sir. I've spoken with our regional representative, from the FAA, gave her a heads up phone call like I did, Ms. Gorman, Mr. Head, and a couple of council members that, hey, this might be coming down the line, when it started to gain a little bit of steam. And, she said, okay, it shouldn't be an issue as long as we have the plans drawn up, and everything is submitted to us, properly. We're in the process of the next couple of years, we're gonna have to do a changeover in the airport layout plan, anyways, because it's coming due. Passero is already tracking that, and they've got the drawings, already drawn up for the fence relocation.
And the city would absorb the 17,000 and recoup it on fuel sales, is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what you're asking us for?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, rather than one of the participants doing it. Mhm. That's tough.
What was your estimate, 10 months?
10 months.
Yes, sir. So, that number comes from, our profit margin per gallon of jet fuel based on the expected, amount of gallons on the low side that the customer said that we would be pumping into their planes per month. To give you that, I mean, we're contracted, our fuel prices are, 44 cent as an into plane fee, so we're making 44 cent a gallon on jet fuel at 4,000 gallons a month from this customer, just this customer.
So it could have long-term benefits.
Oh, absolutely.
Once we get finished.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
He's looking to move about 4 jets into this building, and a couple of smaller, half-gas planes for training here and there.
Okay. Any other questions, council?
Do we need any action now?
Sounds like we need just kind of a
Consensus?
general consensus to proceed. Anybody have any concerns or problems with that? Mr. Ross? Sounds like you have our consensus to move forward.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item C, under new business, discussion of possible action, city clerk annual evaluation. Mrs. Wright, do you want to present this?
Okay, since this is my first year, I am really not familiar with how the clerk evaluation go. I am going off of the last clerk's evaluation process. So as you can see, I've attached the clerk performance evaluation form for you all to review to make sure this is what you want to evaluate me by. And if you have any changes, to let me know. If not, otherwise, I need each and every one to fill it out and return it back to Justin at the next council meeting.
I reviewed the evaluation, and I'm fine with it. I don't
This is
see any
the same
changes.
as eval sheet that we've used previously.
Is everybody okay with the form?
I'm fine with this.
I'm fine with the form. The only question I had was if we could give it to you. But if she says at the meeting, I'm good with that. I understand, that's perfect.
When does it have to be in by?
The next meeting.
Next meeting.
Next be to you.
Yeah, not before, just bring it to the meeting and I'll collect them. Mayor?
Do you want me to do one? I want to know, I want everybody to know yes or no.
I would like you to do one, but it's up to the council.
That's up to the council. I want their opinion. I want to know, yes or no.
Anyone have input on that?
He has before.
I would like for him to do one, just not count it in the total.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Mayor has a lot of interaction with the city clerk, so I don't have a problem with that. And we'll exclude it from the totals.
Got it.
I just didn't want to have any questions come up.
Okay. Sure. Everybody good with that? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. The only question I have about it is, it says in the kind of the write-up that the city clerk will do a self-evaluation.
I think she did one. You will have to let me know that she did one herself.
She did.
I'm pretty sure she did.
She did, yeah.
Do you all still want me to do one as well?
What's the thought on this from the council? To me, it's a little awkward and.
Yeah.
But.
I don't think that's necessary, in my opinion. Not unless it's enlightening and she wants to tell us something. If not, I'm okay with her not doing it.
What are your feelings towards it? Would you like to?
To go with the council.
Okay. Mr. Ross, do you have any input?
No, sounds good to me, just like it is.
Do you think that Ms. Wright should do a self-evaluation on herself to
Yes,
give us? You do?
absolutely.
Okay. Guys have any feelings one way or the other?
If you don't like herself, why should we?
I don't think it's necessary, in my opinion. Most businesses do have you do a self-evaluation. I know places I've worked, they do. But it's as much to get yourself thinking as much as anybody else. And sometimes you do learn what they perceive they need in the future, and possibly what they need from us. So I'm okay with it either way.
And I feel the same. I don't have any issues with it. I just think it's usually the person doing the self-evaluation is tougher on themselves than others, so.
Yes, they are.
And that's not always a bad thing, but, okay, well, we'll keep it as is, then you can evaluate yourself.
Now, would she turn that into, when she does her self-evaluation, is she gonna give it to the council, a copy, before we turn ours in? you said, she might be harder on herself than we are.
I don't think we need to see it before we do
I-
ours.
I just wanted- I just wanted-
I don't either.
So you'll provide it to me when everybody else turns theirs in?
Yes.
That way we're not evaluating you after we read your evaluation?
Right.
Okay,
Yes,
I'm fine with that.
okay.
Any other questions? Yes, sir, you step to the podium, give us your name again.
Albert Fuller. I just wanted to comment after being about 40 years as a supervisor. Self-evaluations are always done prior to the other people doing the evaluation, simply because with the self-evaluation, she may have areas that she would like to enlighten people about as they're doing their evaluation that you all may not have any vision of because you don't know everything she does from day to day. And so a self-evaluation actually helps you all fill out the evaluation for her.
Okay, well, I've never been given one by an employee before I evaluated them, but that's a great input and insight. So what is the wish of the council?
I think it should be one.
You mean as to whether we want to see it before we do ours?
Do we want to see it before ours are turned in? So in other words, if we're gonna meet on, let's just, whatever the date is.
Well, how you gonna do that? If we gotta have it in by the next meeting,
She would have to email it to us.
how you gonna get it done?
For example, if our next meeting was gonna be on January 5th, if we said that Mrs. Wright would get her self-evaluation to us by December 22nd, that would give us 2 weeks to have it while we review her, versus her turning it in at the night that we turn ours in.
And I agree with Mr. Fuller. I mean, if she's gonna do one, well, why should she turn it in at that time? You know, when everybody else turns it in. And like you said, there may be some situations on there that might be harder on herself that we don't know that she does, that we should know what she does or whatnot. And I agree 100% with Mr. Fuller, exactly the way he explained it.
Well, that's what, President had said, is if she turns it in on the
Right.
20,
Yeah,
whatever.
and that would give her
Give
time
us
to
2
do it.
weeks to evaluate your evaluation.
Does that sound okay with you?
Yes, sir.
I'm fine with it that way. I've never done it, but
Right.
I'll accept that. I'm fine with that.
Well, I've been in supervisory capacity and manager, and we have had evaluations from the underlying here, and we would do our own evaluations and basically see what they said and see how highly they thought of themselves versus how highly we thought of them. So.
Okay. All right, so we have another agenda item coming up to discuss meetings, but is 2 weeks enough time for you to do your self-evaluation? Okay, so we would like it due on December 22nd, 2 weeks from today. And how will you provide that?
Would you all like to have me email it to each one? Of you all?
Email would be fine.
Email would be
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. And then the rest of the council will have an additional 2 weeks until January 5th. Have theirs complete?
Yes.
Okay. And bring those to the meeting, not send them to me before. Everybody good with that?
Good.
Okay, any other discussion on that? Questions?
No, sir.
Okay. city clerk evaluations. Item D, discussion with possible action, council meeting for December 22nd. So, you can probably tell by what I just told you, I would prefer to not meet on December 22nd. Mrs. Wright's gonna have to be working on the last hours of the night to finish her self-evaluation, so she needs all that time she can get. A couple days before Christmas, and at this time, I don't think we have anything pressing that has to be on the agenda at that time.
No, we don't.
Okay. And I think historically, we've usually taken off the week of Christmas, so what are the council's thoughts on that?
We gotta get them to you by the 22nd, though, is that right?
No, sir.
No, no.
Latricia is going to send all of us hers by the 22nd.
Okay,
You'll have 2 more weeks until January 5th to complete yours,
right,
okay? What now we're discussing is,
I got you.
we're not gonna meet on December 22nd.
Okay, I got you.
I would like to postpone, or cancel the council meeting on December 22nd. Meet again on January 5th. That would be the next regularly scheduled meeting,
I'm
correct?
so moved. All right.
And we get those to you by then, on that date, our evaluation.
Bring it to him.
Yeah.
Bring it here.
Not by
On the
then.
5th.
Bring it to the meeting on the 5th.
I got you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to cancel the December 22nd meeting, and we'll hold our next meeting at the regularly scheduled date of January 5th, 2021. Any other discussion about that? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, we will not meet again in December, so January 5th is the next meeting date. All right, item 7 is public participation. This is another opportunity for anyone that would like to speak on any other item. If you would please come to the podium, you'll have 5 minutes to speak.
Marvin Johnson, and now I'm coming as a business owner at B&M Unique Style right here, 28 East Noble. And I want to address all the potholes behind the businesses there, especially since now with none of it open, everything's running. Most of the businesses are full there, back door, antique shop. And because of all the horse trailers, cow trailers, they have to come back there now, the potholes are getting deep. And with Mr. Coleman, we talked with him, and the last city manager, they would always come in and keep that graded down because it was gonna cost about $500,000. Yeah, when they was going to put all the utilities on the ground and pay that for the business owners. We even painted the back of the building, but apparently nothing was ever really done. But I would appreciate if we could get back to bringing in something to keep that, graded off back there. So at least the customers don't bottom out, because it is getting deep. Some of the potholes are 2-3 feet deep. Okay? So, other than that, and one other thing, the, rain, gutters along the front of the building. I don't know if that's a city thing, but we actually got weeds and plants and everything and trees growing out of those. Is there any way to get those cleaned out? I mean, that's from one end all the way to the other end of the buildings out front. So that's, you know, I just want to bring it, I don't know if it's a city thing or the business owners are responsible for stuff like that, but I do know in the back, those potholes, they are a mess. Questions?
Well, I don't want to take up your 5 minutes of time.
I know it's not gone, so you can take it up, I'm good.
But those are, I mean, that's private property, private business owners should
Okay,
be responsible for maintaining and taking care of their own gutters, I would think. So,
Okay.
yeah.
We can do that.
But I would also advise you to maybe meet with Ms. McGorman sometime and talk about the parking lot back there at Block 12, because she's been doing a lot with that. So we don't have to necessarily talk about it tonight unless you want to, but,
I can give you a quick update if you want.
Sure.
There's a postage stamp back size property in the back that's privately owned by Mr. Peso, that I've been in negotiations with him trying to get that.
Yeah, I remember
Because the
that.
design of that parking lot is all, it's all, broken up without having that opportunity to use that space. It's all dead ends in that parking lot, it's just bad design. So to try and make it right, because we wanna go to bid, we're trying to purchase that from him, we're having a really hard time. So we just, planning just sent out another letter saying, you agreed verbally, one more time, would you please honor your agreement and let's go forward. If he says no, we're just gonna go back and try and bid it the way it is, and it'll be dysfunctional until such time as we can get that piece. But it's not like we're not doing anything, it's just we're having unwilling owners back there, making it really hard on us to go forward. That's all I can say. Meanwhile, CJ can maybe take a look back there and see if we can grade some of these holes and get them smoothed out while we're waiting for a response for him.
Sure, okay. Now, I do understand Mr. Peso, I've kind of been on the RCA thing with him, and I understand all of that. But at the end of the day, if we could just keep it graded, I'm not, let's not invent the wheel, because that wheel's been broken for a while. So until that legal stuff is all done, but at least help the business owners out, so at least when our customers come there, they don't have to be bothered about it and ruining their cars.
Exactly.
Okay?
All right, thank you. Anybody else for public participation?
Anyone go to meeting, like to speak up, unmute your mic, please.
Nobody? Okay. Item 8, announcements. We'll start with Mr. Rawls. You have anything?
I, for one, would like to thank CJ for all the work that he's done on this fuel savings proposal. I can remember when we had to have 4 or 5 council meetings and 2 or 3 workshops to come up with the same thing. And he's handled it all by himself, or with his help he's got here. He hadn't had to go out and call the council together and come up with all these different people showing up to talk where we didn't understand. I just thank CJ for all the work he's done. Appreciate it, CJ.
Ms. Jones, anything?
I also want to thank CJ and the whole crew, for the Christmas lights look wonderful,
Yeah.
as always. They do. All the way from the top of the hill. I mean, I love the water tower. It's kind of iconic. It's been that way for years, but it's my favorite place.
A lot better than the yellow.
Yeah, it looks really good. I don't know, I like the yellow. I used to call it a vanilla milkshake with a cherry on top. But I like it multicolored as well. It just looks gorgeous. I really appreciate all the work that your whole staff has done on that.
And I really appreciate the lights coming on all at the same time the other night. Really do appreciate that. And, I'd like to say just a Merry Christmas to everybody. Have a happy, safe New Year, and we'll see you in 2021, and let's pray that it's better than 2020.
Amen. Oh, gosh.
Mrs. Robinson, anything?
I would, well, I know the chamber's not here, but I appreciate them going ahead with the parade and the Light Up Williston. And I'd like to thank Chief Stroh for all his help in getting the officers and help on protecting and whatever, and with the control of the crowds for Light Up Williston. Thank you very much. And thank your many people that you had to have come out.
It took 43 people.
Well, thank those 43 people. I appreciate it. Everybody had fun, and the people that I did talk to loved having some normalcy with the Christmas. Thank you.
Mr. Cox? All right. Well, the last thing I'm going to say is, although CJ, I do appreciate everything you did, I want to thank everybody on the staff, because I said this a few weeks ago, it's been a very challenging year. It's hard to believe this is going to be the last time we sit here this year. But we've been through a lot. As a citizen, I never had any idea of what it took to run the city. As a council member, I started figuring it out, but I still really didn't until I got over here in this position, and the last few months have been very eye-opening. So Jackie, Latricia, CJ, or everybody, right on down the line, Brooke and the staff, it's been a lot of change. I know there's been some heartburn, and I know there's been some issues, but we're going to get through it, and I appreciate the efforts that everybody's put in. Mr. Coberline, you too, not ignoring you. appreciate everything you've done.
And welcome Jackie to Wilson.
Yeah.
I forgot to say
Yeah.
that.
I fulfilled my
Yes,
contract,
you
I
did.
get work by 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Just like Eric.
But with that, I just want to thank everybody for your efforts. I appreciate it. It doesn't go unnoticed, I know it's a lot of work, so. All right, with that, I will
Merry
say
Christmas.
Merry Christmas to everybody.
Oh, look,
Christmas not done.
I'm sorry. Just want to remind the council and staff of the Christmas party, December 23rd.
I don't think we know about that.
The
we have a
council
Christmas
provided-
party?
The council provided Christmas party that they do each year for the staff.
Oh, isn't that nice of us?
It helps to tell us.
What time would
Are
that
we
be?
invited to this
Yes.
party?
Oh, we're supposed to be there.
Noon.
On December 23rd.
Okay.
Just a reminder, 12 o'clock.
Okay.
And we're gonna do a little different this year because of the safety precautions of the COVID-19. We will have it to go.
Go.
To go party.
Yes.
We are
That's
so
kinda cool.
creative.
That's kinda cool. Yeah.
Wayne, did you have something? Okay. Anybody else? Any other announcements?
Maybe we adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
We got one.
Oh,
Got a
second.
Got a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
You won't do about it.